Okay, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, wherever you might be in the world. This is David I, and with me on the line is Jim McKeith and Stephen Ball, who are helping out watching the question and answer area for me while I'm doing the presentation and demonstration. I am live from here in Scotts Valley, California in our studio, and it's great to have you all with us. Let's get started. Last week, I did a session about how to move your Delphi and C++ Builder VCL applications forward to the new look and feel of Windows 10 using styles and using the new VCL controls that are a part of 10 Seattle. And so that replay is up on the Embarcadero YouTube channel, and my blog post of last week, February 17th, has the link to that replay. It has the link to slides. It has the link to the source code for some of the projects that I've been working on. It's sort of a never-ending process of adding more capabilities to this demo app we have called the Marine Adventures application that's been with us for many releases now. I have a blog post for this week's webinar. It's the latest one on my website, on the blog site and the community site. And there I've put the link to last week's blog, which has, again, the link to the replay and so on. I have the slide deck for this week up on SlideShare, and I've put that link in the chat window. So if you want to download the slides and follow along, you can, or just watch on the screen. And I'll be putting up the source code projects for this week soon on Code Central as well. And then I have links, so later on, if I talk about certain links to certain capabilities in the product, you can go to the blog post and find all of those links. So that's what's over on the blog post. And there's the short URL for that blog post for this week as well, embt.co/VCLWin10 specific. It's case sensitive, and these bit.ly short URLs. If you drop the word specific on the end, you'll get to the blog post for last week's first part webinar. What I'm going to do is move forward this week and cover the next step in taking that Marine Adventures application, VCL app, and do some Windows 10 specific, hence the short URL, work on that application. These are all my contact information. You want to email me, follow my blog, follow me on Twitter, and so on. Okay, we're going to take a look a little bit about what's in 10 Seattle specifically for Windows 10. I'm going to talk somewhat about how you might think about organizing your projects and applications to use some of the new capabilities that work on all the different versions of Windows, but also what you might think about if you want to add either for a specific project or take care of adding Windows 10 specific features, and then do some if-def or some coding so that those features may get disconnected from your app so that you can still run on old versions of Windows. We'll update the Marine Adventures app. I've done some of that, and then we'll finish up the webinar this week. Just a reminder, there were 5 new VCL controls for the user experience: the split view control, the search box, activity indicator, the toggle switch, the relative panel. Those are in the Windows 10 component palette category in the IDE. The Windows 10 styles we covered last week, and this week again we're going to look at some of the Universal Windows Platform capabilities, WinRT services and components, in particular looking at local notifications, sharing contracts. We'll also take a look at some of the units that are available for WinRT to do even more Windows 10 specific programming in your applications. So why use all this new Windows 10 stuff when you have a Windows app that works just fine and runs just fine on Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, maybe even Windows XP, Windows Vista, and so on? Well, first, I think all of us are interested in attracting new customers for our applications, and also giving new capabilities in our applications whenever we can, getting to the widest audience of Windows Desktop, Windows Server, and Windows multi-tier application solutions for our customers. At the same time, you're seeing new applications that are taking advantage of the Windows 10 capabilities. All these new PCs that people are getting, whether they're the hybrid tablet types, desktop types, notebooks, towers, or whatever. People are getting used to these new styles and look and feel. So why not excite your existing customers who are upgrading their hardware and, in a sense, will, if they don't already, will soon come to expect that Windows 10 look and feel. At the same time, why not provide a better user interface and user experience for your users, especially in these new worlds of these kind of desktop tablet hybrids. Some of them are notebooks that turn into tablets, or tablets that have keyboards that really are notebook computers. And there's some cool new Windows 10 specific APIs that you might want to think about using as additions to your existing applications, or building a whole new class of applications that are Windows 10 specific. Now, this is not an exhaustive list, and I don't expect you to all look at every word that's on here. I was just trying to relate, well, gee, if I just do Windows only, then I'm going to run on the widest number of Windows deployed desktop platforms out there, right? Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, maybe some Vista. Even if you do the right things, Windows XP that's out there somewhere. So, but what if you wanted to have the best of both worlds? Have Windows 10 specific capabilities, and then maybe have your Windows projects that either would not have those capabilities, but would run on other versions of Windows. So one is you could create a project group, two target apps that share the common forms and code that you know work on every release of Windows. And then have Windows versions for Windows 10 specific forms and code for the Windows 10. Some duplication, but since you could share a lot of the existing code and isolate some of the Windows 10 specifics, then you have that possibility just with a project group in two projects and shared project nodes between the two of them. Of course, you could use conditional defines based on the platform version numbers that we provide. You could also do something with runtime code as well to test to see what version of Windows you're running on, and then defeature or provide an alternative way to do some of the functionality. Now, conditional defines work nice for platform-specific code, but doesn't necessarily work for form files, although you could create some of your forms at runtime based on the Windows version to bring the right capabilities in for those parts of your application that may be Windows 10 specific. For visual controls, you could put them in frames and have a frame for Windows 10 capabilities and another frame for other versions of Windows. And you could take your non-visual controls and put them in a data module or put them in a separate source code unit and use them across all of your applications and your projects. So those are just some ideas for thinking about how can we isolate or deal with a world of both Windows 10 specific versus Windows general across everything. Now, at some point in time, and Microsoft has the statistics, just as Apple does and Google does, they talk about how many people are using which versions of an operating system. As time goes on, the older machines are going to disappear. There's just going to be more and more people upgrading to Windows 10. Right now, it's sort of a mix of Windows 7, Windows 10, and I guess the XP is still out there in certain worlds. So let's take a look at a few of the new Windows 10 specific capabilities that are in 10 Seattle and in Windows. The first one is notifications. Now, we've actually had notifications in Delphi and C++ Builder in the past, especially in the mobile space. And in fact, the notifications were originally in the FMX namespace or the FMX unit scope. In 10 Seattle, notifications have now been moved into the system unit, and we support doing local notifications on Windows 8 and Windows 10. And we have a component that you can drop down called the T Notification Center, and there's a notification class that you can use. So you can hook into your VCL applications, now that it's in the system unit instead of the FMX unit. You can use notifications on a Windows 10 system and Windows 8 and have those notifications show up in the Action Center or have them pop up. So if you want to grab the attention of a user, you can do this kind of notification capability. And again, it's there and you can use it. You can instantiate those classes in your code. You don't have to put anything inside of your existing forms or existing source code in your projects. You can isolate it. So let's take a look. We ship a couple of samples with the product for notifications. So I'll go here and bring up the project group. We have two samples of a C++ and a Delphi sample for notifications. And so here, this is the C++ version. We put the notification center control down there. We can go over here and say Windows 10, for example, or look at the notification center, and there it is under the system unit because it's an operating system specific capability, right? We saw last week that the split view is in the Windows 10 world, but they're VCL controls that work on Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10. And then the rest of this we'll do in code. Let's go under this show button. How can we show a notification? The notification center, you give it a badge number. That way you can bump the number just as you see on other mobile devices, you know, notification 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. There's an event called on receive local notification, meaning if the user did something with the notification, you'd like to get information back maybe in your application that the user acknowledged or did something with your notification. Let's look under the show button. Here we're going to create an instance of a notification, and we're going to specify the name. This is the name of the notification. In order to be able to cancel a notification, a specific notification, each notification needs to have a different name. And then we give it some title and an alert body, whatever text that you want to put. We'll present the notification using the notification center component, and then finally we'll clean up the creation of the specific notification. That's the C++ version. We go look at the Delphi version. Again, same thing. We've got a notification of type T notification. We'll create that notification. We'll set a name, a title, an alert body, and then present the notification via the notification center to the operating system. And then if when we get back, when the user does something with the notification, we'll just put in a memo box that the notification was received and whatever the name of that notification is, right? So the name, different names, so you can do the cancellation. To cancel a notification, you just pass the string of the name of the notification you want to cancel. You can also cancel all just by calling the cancel all method for notifications. All right, so let's run one of these examples here. So we're going to watch down here in the lower right-hand corner. Let's show the notification. You'll see it slide in. The user gets alerted that there's something going on in your application. Maybe it's caused by some kind of database trigger or some kind of error condition or some other information that you want to get the attention of the user. And then when the user goes down and clicks on it, then the operating system will send you back an event through that event handler and give you the information here, which is the sender and the notification that came back, that name. So it just says notification received for the name of that notification that the user did something with. Let's show another one. Now in this case, if the user cancels the notification, you won't get any return back. So you can do some logic, for example, maybe hammer on the user multiple times if they keep canceling or not responding to the notification as you would like them. Here's cancel, and again, cancel all. They go. Let's show both of them and cancel them again. So Those are the things you can do. And again, these show up. There we get rid of one and we respond to the other one, right? And if you want to see these notifications, you can also bring up the Action Center in Windows 10. Okay, so really straightforward. A component to connect your application to what was called the Notification Center that Microsoft now calls the Action Center, right? And then some code behind that to actually create the information that you want to present to the user. The second capability in Windows 10 specific in the WinRT world is what's called a sharing contracts. Now we've had drag and drop support for a while, and you'll see, with things like Olay and so on, where you could pass information from an application to another application. Of course, there are lots of operating system ways to pass information between different applications, whether it's named pipes or so on. What sharing contracts is a way to have a more structured way of passing information from one application to another based on the type of information that you're providing. The operating system can look up and see what other applications can share the kind of information that you provide. So this is new in Windows 10. Microsoft uses the term sharing contracts, or sometimes just contracts, where there's an API contract between one application and another based on the type of information that's being provided. Now we have two ways of doing sharing contracts. We have a component way of doing it, and then there's also a runtime library set of operations that you can use. So it's your choice. Simplest, of course, and I love it, is to just use components and set a few properties and respond to events. But again, you can use the runtime library framework as well for your sharing contracts. And here we have a sample application that ships with the product. So let's go and bring up the sharing contract group. Here we've got two different kinds of samples. We've got the one that uses the component and one that uses the framework. So the component, we just have the sharing contract component, and it has a set of properties. For example, the content application link, a web link maybe, where if you click on the information to one application, it'll pass along a URL that then the user could click on, or if the target application can do something with the URL, for example, launch a browser, it might do that. You can specify a title and text and description that'll be passed along the application. You can even pass along some HTML. You just put in, header 1, paragraph marks, and so on inside of there. You can pass along bitmaps for an icon and an image, and a logo, and so on. Even some RTF text, you can put that in there, and a web address. So there's lots of capabilities. This simple application just provides edit boxes for some of this, and then the share button is there to put into the component those edit boxes, set some icons. Here's some rich text. Here's some HTML, very simple there with paragraph marks. And then if we go back to the component, the sharing component, there are a couple events on app chosen. If the user chooses an app that matches the contract, then you'll get information back. You can also have an event handler for transferring images, especially for larger images. For example, if we think in that kind of web world where you pass over some information to the app, the browser, whatever, and then it wants to get additional information from you. So let's look at the first event handler, app chosen. All we're going to do here is we're going to get some arguments back, and the arguments in this case is going to give us which application the user chose from the set of matching contracts with some other Windows applications that are installed. And we'll just dump out that application name and as a string. All right. And here, if there's a transfer request, then we'll just stream out an image file, for example, and send that image over to the sharing contract application. All right, so let's, if we go over and look at the framework way to do it, again, we just now go and set the application name and so on, and init the sharing. So there's your choice how you want to write your code, whether you want to use the component or you want to use the runtime library framework way of doing it. All right. So let's go and run this example. All right, put in some text. This is my description, and the application name is the share component app, something like that. Here's a few bits of URLs and so on, and then we'll click the share button. And now notice that for the sharing contract that we specified and wanted to pass, there are a set of applications that know how to do something with the information that we're providing, as well as, you've seen this before, when you want to open up a certain type of file in Windows, you can go and look for other applications that either are on your system or in the application store. So this is how Microsoft hooks the App Store to go and look for additional applications that might do something with whatever you're passing, bitmaps, movies, spreadsheets, whatever it might be that you might be passing in the sharing contract. So this one, let's just bring the first one, the reading list app. And then here it knows there's my description. That was over here. I didn't put in a title. I did put the sharing component app here, so it came from that. And then I can go and add this to my reading list. If you don't want that one, you can go back and say, for example, let's go look at OneNote. And so, here's the title and so on. If you've got email hooked up, you want to take some data from an application and send an email with that data to somebody, or send a message to the person. And also notice that as the app is chosen, we get that event handler callback from the operating system that lets us see that, yes, the user did choose something and what kind of app they chose. Maybe you want to log who's doing what with your application or what apps are being used with it. So there's sharing contracts, very simple application again. Now, there's also support for the WinRT set of APIs. We've created 40 interface units from the Windows header files for WinRT. Those are included in Delphi, and we have an updated version for C++. The history of some of these WinRT units is WinRT appeared in Windows 8, and so in the summertime for Exe8, we did a Delphi version in the Get It package manager that you could grab. The Delphi version was updated and shipped with 10 Seattle. The C++ version is in the Get It package manager and the ID, and you can go and select that and install it. And when it gets installed, you'll find those header files for C++ in the catalog repository for WinRT. Catalog repository in your documents area is where all the Get It package manager pieces and parts get put in, and then they're found in the search path in your IDE is updated so that those units, those components, whatever they might be, can be found. So go back to the IDE, bring up the package manager, and it goes out and finds all the things that are available in the package manager. You'll notice that I've already installed the C++ Windows 10 WinRT set of headers. You can hover over it, and those appeared in November of 2015, and they're just the interfaces for Windows 10 WinRT access. you can go and see which ones I've installed. For example, I've got that one installed, right? You can see what libraries might be available and for all of those, for example. So I've got this here. Maybe I want a version of Boost and so on if I'm doing C++ development, all right? Now, I'm not going to go through all of these units. There's the 40 unit names for Delphi. There's lots of different functionality inside of here, getting at Bluetooth devices, globalization. We're going to see an example here in a moment for dealing with different locale-based operations in the operating system, network, security, storage. There's a bunch of user interface components. Notifications, I already showed you that we handle through a component and through the runtime library where we've wrapped that for you. But you can go and look at the lower level operations that take place. There's some other user interface areas dealing with animations, specialized buttons, working with XAML and so on. So you'll find all of that there. There's some types that are in here, like foundation types. Those will be used, collections and so on. So I encourage you all to explore. There's a WinRT book. It's got a lot of C# examples, but if you search for a WinRT book, I'll put the link in my blog post. There's a book that's out on WinRT that's updated for Windows 10, has a bunch of C# examples, but they go through and describe the functionality inside of each of these these interfaces that are available in WinRT. After you do the Get It Package Manager update for C++, you'll get, again, these WinRT header files for the same functionality. So for working with sockets, proximity beacons, Bluetooth, and so on. So you'll find additional functionality that you can take advantage of that's Windows 10 WinRT specific in your applications. Now we do ship one example. It's a Delphi example that uses the globalization WinRT unit. And in there it allows you to query what the calendar locale information is and type of calendar that you have that your users are running your application on. So let's go back to the ID and load that example. And here it's just got a memo and then we're going to do some code. So this is you know, a bunch of code. Most of these functions are coming in through a set of units. Here, first the system WinRT unit, WinAPI unit, WinAPI Foundation. There's some collections, and here's that globalization unit that the calendar information is part of. There's also string handles. So when you see H-string, it's a type that's provided as part of the WinRT types. It's a handle to a string. Let's go back and show the data again. And so here we're going to create a Windows string and an array of string handles, and then we're going to go into and get the date time formatter through the WinRT to see what the person has chosen for date time formatting. We're going to see what kind of calendar that might be available. So Gregorian is one, Japanese, Hebrew, Hijri. These are some of the calendars that are provided for in Windows, and then we can dump out information in the memos of the calendar information for each of those calendar types going through the calendar interface here, right? So if we want to go find that declaration, oh, I got to open up the Windows API globalization unit. And so it just dumps out a bunch of information about the calendars that are available. Here we're just going to make sure that by looking at TOS version, we're going to check to make sure that we're running on Windows 10. And if we're running on Windows 10, then the Show Data button is going to be enabled. So I think somebody was asking along the way, how do I test for the operating system version? So here's this TOS version information that you can use, and then you can check to see what version you're running on. Right? And then this will just, on the form show, if the show data is enabled, then we're going to, if it's not enabled, because of this test here, to see that we're running on Windows 10, we'll say this demo only works under Windows 10. So there's one example of having functionality in your application with code that instead of using ifdefs, it uses runtime code to tell the user something that they can use or not use in Windows 10. All right. So here, let's show this example. And so here it dumps out. It says, okay, the Gregorian 24-hour calendar. Here's the date time that we would get. Here's the it's AD. It's 24-hour clock. The year, month, day, and so on. The day of week and such. In Japanese, here it is again using the Japanese calendar. Here's the 45 years in the era. Here's your different characters along the way. If you want to use the Hebrew calendar for your displays of calendar, then you get the characters that are associated with those. And for Hijiri, again, you get the characters as well. So there's a way using WinRT to get at some functionality from your Delphi and your C++ application that is in the operating system, and you can get to it through the WinRT APIs. Okay, and you can choose other languages as well. Okay, so which brings me to the next step in our process in this Marine Adventures application. Last week I introduced or reintroduced people to the Marine Adventures application. It's been with us for a long time. It's a master detail sample application that is included with 10 Seattle. The data model is it has customers, orders, parts, and inventory items. The functionality is that you can add, modify, browse, and report, and it uses Interbase Express data access components. We call it IBX, which is a specific component set that gives you more access to the Interbase API functionality. You could use FireDAC, you could use DB Express, whatever you might want, whatever you're using in your applications to get to Interbase. This example uses IBX. Again, it gives you a wide range of functionality exposing the Interbase API. The original app had menus. It had a button bar for functionality. Everything was modal forms popping up all over the place. It didn't have any touch gesture support, so it wasn't necessarily built nicely for tablet. It did get updated along the way when we started adding XP theme support and then VCL styles. So there was a menu item for style selection that was added. And I showed that last week as part of the modernization of taking an old style application. Let me go back to the IDE and let's go and open up that original app. So there's that looking, button bar that was there. Let's just run it. That's probably the fastest way to do it. Here's that kind of looking app, we want to go and browse customers and orders. So as we step through, there's your master detail and action, seeing their orders, amount due and paid, and so on. Going looking at parts. Here we've got, some parts on hand and on order. Look at maybe there's some back orders that might be around and such. All right. Now this was updated along the way to support other styles that are available, and I went into the project options menu down under application appearance, and in the VCL app we can see here are all the different styles that I have installed going back to the world of Windows 8 with the Metropolis UI look and some of the other classic ones that we've provided along the way. Onyx Blue, you can check some of these Carbon, XZ Media, and so on. And then I went in and clicked to add Windows 10 Windows 10 blue and Windows 10 dark, and then you can go and set the default style that you want, and then we can run it again. So now it'll take on that Windows 10 style, but if we wanted to have the Windows 10 blue, we get all of that, and it flows through all of the functionality in your VCL application. Right? All right. Now, last week I went through 2 more steps of adding some of those VCL components that were added in 10 Seattle, the relative panel, which allows you to relate different components in a panel to each other, to the right, setting something to the right of or below or in relationship to another control. So as the panel's resized or you're running on different resolutions, everything flows very nicely versus scaling the whole form, for example. We added the split view, which is a new component, which gives you that kind of modern look of having a button bar on the left-hand side of it instead of a menu that can open and close and all of that. We did a bunch of that stuff in the app last week. This week I'm building upon that and I've done a few other things. We'll take a look at that in a moment. I added Windows 10 notifications just to send a reminder to the user to check the inventory levels periodically, and also to be able to send information using the sharing contracts with other Windows 10 applications. Those are a couple of the additions that I've added this week, and over the coming weeks I'll keep adding more functionality, removing some of the modal forms and pop-ups and making them fit more nicely into the container of the application. So let's go and look at some of my progress to date. This is the Delphi Master app the way it looks today. And what I've done here is, again, I've taken last week's split view form and added some more functionality to it. So here's the split view on the left-hand side. It's now got 5 buttons on it in that split view. Going to structure window, I'm using the category menu items, and I've got a button category. And those items are the home button, something for customer orders that I'm still working on, doing a notification, sharing some information, and an event log in a separate piece of functionality. And in each of these, we've got actions associated with it. The original app didn't even use actions. That's how far back it goes. Actions came, what, in Delphi 5, I think it was. So we have an action list, and we're associating reusable actions to each of these category buttons. We've also got image lists. So here, if I bring up the image list editor, and Jim McKeith did a great session yesterday on using image lists with FireMonkey. But we also have image lists inside of VCL. So I've got my different images here. This one I'm using for the little hamburger icon to open and close the split view. I've got a sort of, I guess it's sort of like a ledger card kind of report. That's your master detail of customers and orders, for example. And then the other buttons, there's a, I don't know, battery level. That was in the original application. I copied from the split view sample that we shipped. For share, I made a little arrow icon of my own. For the event log, I've just got a bunch of lines, sort of like an event log. And I've got an exclamation point for doing a notification. Right? And then the action list, I've just got actions. There's some standard actions. The home action, customer and orders, and I associate each of these actions with the split view buttons. And then I've added gesture manager, which wasn't in the original app, and I just use the swipe left and swipe right gestures to open and close the split view. The other way is we've got this image. It's called the hamburger icon because it kind of looks like a Big Mac, like 3 pieces of bread and 2 pieces of meat in between it. And if we click on that, then if the split view is open, we're going to close it. Otherwise, if it's closed, then we're going to open the split view, right? The other thing is I added, since the last time, this radio group, And in the radio group, I'm going to allow you to set the style of the collapsing for the split view, either to collapse and close it completely or to put it in compact mode. And what is compact mode? Compact mode in a split view is to make it so that just the icons show up but not the captions. So over on the split view properties, you can set the height and width of the split view, and is it open to start, opened, or turn that off? It's closed. Right there it is, open and closed. Okay. And then you can also set the opened width. So I want it to be full, and you can also set the compact size. I want it on the left, so here's my, you can have your split view on the left or right. I like it on the left, that's just me. And you can also set the compact width. So I set the compact width to 50 pixels. It'll give me just enough to show the icons themselves and not the captions that are associated with each of these split view items. All right, and then I've got a combo box for style, and I've got a toggle switch for connecting to the database or not. Okay, customer orders, I'm using a page control here. Customer orders, I haven't done anything in that yet. For notification, I've got similar to what we saw in the demo. I've got a button, some labeled edits here where I've got the Marine Adventure name, notification title, as product inventory levels, and the alert body says please check product inventory on hand and on order, for example. And the code is the same code as you saw before. Here I should set that name to the same name that I want. I'm going to do that in code, right? And then when I click on that button, we're going to set the right names inside of each application. All right, so it looks like I still have some work to do here. Let's go back and get these strings. And that's the labeled edit 1. I guess that one is. Okay, so here, this should be, again, labeled edit 1 dot text. Okay, and this should be, I think it's a label edit 2, I believe, for the title. Yep. Okay, so this is labeled edit 2.text. Okay, I guess I should give those real names next time, if I didn't already. Labeled edit. David. There we go. Dot text. Okay. Yeah, someday I'll keep cleaning this up. This should have had a name that was, notification name, for example. All right, so now we've got that code happening properly for the notification, and then let's save that. And then on the sharing page, we've got all these edit boxes here. Again, I stole that code from the sharing demo sample, but I've updated it to bring up some different text and some different URLs, for example. All right. And so if we come back here and we bring up this close style, if we change that, all it's going to do is it's going to set the close style to be whatever the close style is from the item index. So it's going to set the split view close style to be compact or collapse completely. All right. So let's go and run this example now having Windows 10 capability. I guess in the form create I should put some of that code like before that says, hey, this needs Windows 10, and maybe I would disable or disable these two operations and put in the event log, for example, that by the way, you don't get notified and sharing if you're not running on Windows 10. So that's another refinement maybe to do. Let's connect to our database. Here we've got the styles, Iceberg Classico. That one's pretty cool. Some people like the Windows Dark style, especially during Star Wars movie release time, or the Windows 10 style. Right? If we want a compact view, so there's compact view, for example. Let's go back to the dark style. So compact view, we just have the icons. right? And not the captions or collapsing all the way. Right? And then again, a gesture right and left. I'm on a Mac, so I'm using the mouse to gesture right and left. So we hook the gestures in. All right. Let's go to customer and orders, and that brings up the customer and order table, and then we can do things, edit customer information, and so on. The event log is keeping track of things that we did. That way we can look at what the users are doing with the application. For example, maybe we want to share that over time. So we open the database, we clicked on the orders clicked, go back here, we click the home button. Let's look at the event log again, that's where we are. If we want to do a notify, then we can put some text in here now, right? And let's do the notification. So I'm doing it on a button, but you might have some event at the top of the hour, or if inventory is getting out of control in your application, you'd want to tell, check the inventory on hand and on order, and if they keep closing it, for example, put exclamation points and keep adding exclamation points. And then if they acknowledge the notification, then again, in the memo, I put the notification received, and I'm also putting it over here in my overall event log. For sharing, again, I'm using the component-based version of the sharing. We've got all these information that we're going to pass to the application. So let's click the share button, and now it gives us information that says, okay, customer and their orders. This information contains the customer. You hover over it, company and orders information. Let's go to our reading list, and we can see the information there. I've passed along the bitmap for Marine Adventures that's used on the splash screen, and here's a small icon version of it, and we can add that to our reading list, for example, or we can go over and look at the information in OneNote, for example, and so on. Right. Okay. So there, some specific code. I guess I'll add to the on-form create to see that I'm running on version 10 of Windows, and then disable these buttons and put a note in the event log here that says not run on Windows 10, so can't use notify and share, right? Okay, so a little more advancement of the application. I'll zip this up and also create the C++ version and put this up on Code Central, just like I did for last week's samples that are in a zip file on Code Central. And you'll find a link to Code Central on the blog, and I'll update this week's blog with the zip file of these, this refinement again of the application. I'll add that Windows 10 check. That'd be a good little addition. All right. So just to summarize, RAD Studio 10 is ready. It's available. It's there. We've done the initial release. We've done an update 1. We've done some hot fixes. So all of that is available to you. Comes in different editions. Again, RAD Studio includes C Builder and Delphi and HTML Builder and Interbase XE7. If you get Delphi, then you have the Delphi version. If you get C++ Builder, you have the C++ version. You can do all the Windows 10 work, whether you're in the professional or enterprise and above. The WinRT units are there, the VCL controls that give you that new look with relative panels and so on. All of that is available for you in addition in the professional and all the other editions. We have a couple special offers that are happening right now. The first one is buy one tool and get another tool of equal or lesser price. That offer is only good until the end of February. So Leap Day is next Monday. That's the last time for this round to get this buy one, get one free offer. Also, if you have 10 Seattle, you get the free bonus pack, which includes the updated Object Pascal Handbook by Marco Cantu, the VCL and FireMonkey Premium styles that we provide, and the Media Converter Basic. Media Converter will do the first round of conversion. It takes VCL applications, including the database access, and it will convert those forms, and for Delphi, the source code, into a FireMonkey project and FireMonkey app. It'll do the live bindings for you to bind your databases to the fields. It does all that analysis for you, and then you can upgrade to the Media Converter Studio, and there's different editions that are available from those nice folks that provide us with the basic or Embarcadero edition. You can find everything about these offers, the terms and conditions, do the what if I purchase, what tools can I choose from of equal to or lesser price. All of that information is on the RAD offer page. If I go to the RAD offer page, again, all that information is there for you, including the choose your free product on redemption page. Once you register the purchase product, the term and conditions, and so on. So you can see the kinds of things that you can redeem as part of that. And then if you scroll down a little further, descriptions and information about the free bonus pack. All right. And again, just a reminder, I put it in the chat window. There's my blog post for this time with the slide decks, and I'll put the zip file, and that'll show up as a link down here in the blog post. And last week's blog post again is a link right there. And that's the February 17th, adding Windows 10 look and feel and some new VCL components. And there's the replay, the slide link, and down here the link to the source code from last week with information about it and the link. So these two together will help you do VCL specific across Windows versions, and then today Windows 10 specific capabilities. Next Wednesday, Pavel Glavatsky is going to show you all the new JSON features that are in 10 Seattle. So come and join Pavel and the rest of us that will be hanging out with him. Again, it's 6 a.m., 11 a.m., and 5 p.m. Register for those. You'll see these entries on the community events calendar on the community homepage. But I also will, there's a blog post by Pavel, so you can go to the blog menu and go down and choose Pavel's blog, and he'll tell you more information about learn how to use the new JSON features. Click on that link, and here I'll post that into the chat log for you. But he talks about what he's going to do with serialized and deserialized objects in JSON, and then some additional capabilities to show you how you can use some of the new cool JSON stuff in your applications. We have skill sprints every Tuesday and Thursday. Delphi, again, Jim did image list for Delphi yesterday, and tomorrow he's doing image lists with C++ and FireMonkey. So just go to the skill sprints landing page and you can register, and we have topics scheduled all the way through the end of March, and then we'll just continue throughout the year. All right, there's that URL. And now Jim and Stephen, if you're there, I'll turn it over to you, and I'll move over to the Q&A area and see what's been happening over there.
The modified Marine Adventures app, now that you've modified it, will only run on Windows 10 with the Windows RT now. Is that correct?
Well, for those two, for notifications and sharing, what I'm going to do, though, as I mentioned, I'm going to take that same code, use the TOS version structure, and make sure on form create if it's Windows 10, and I'll just disable those two component operations, and then we won't have to worry about the chance that you might trigger them. But yeah, because I have those components and the sharing contract and the notification work in there, that makes it Windows 10 specific. But as I mentioned in the strategies, there's ways to structure my application either with ifdefs and with code, like I showed you in one of the samples. I think it was the calendar sample that we shipped for Delphi, that you can test for the operating system version and just not use that functionality, right? Or say to the user, the application will still load on other versions of Windows, but you don't want to be calling functionality that doesn't exist. So you have to defend against that with some version testing or ifdef code. Yeah.
So if you do not have that check in there and it tries to run anyway, what kind of error will the user get? Do you know?
That's a good question. I'll let's see.
Yeah, I could probably answer that one on the notification side.
Okay.
On the notifications, when you actually call the notification center to create a notification, it does a check internally. A lot of the new stuff that we're adding in works with interfaces using platform services. So what it'll do is actually query the platform to find out if the platform supports the current service that you're asking for. And this is especially important when you kind of look at what's been happening on the FireMonkey side around mobile. There's lots of different devices offering different types of services. It works in the same way. Notifications originally came from the mobile side across to the desktop side. So the notifications literally just check to see if the platform supports it. And if it does, it returns back an instance of the object for you to go and work with, which is what you then set the notification properties on. And if it's not supported, it will just return back nil. So to check if the notifications are available, you can just literally query the notification center to see if it can create a notification. And if you get something that's not null, then hey, your platform supports it.
Yep. Yeah, good. Thanks, Steve.
Excellent. So how about sending notifications between computers? Is that something you can do with the notification center?
Right now, the notifications are local only. At the same time, you could use other systems to do remote or push notifications, but for now, it's a local notification from your app to the desktop notification or action center.
Yeah, there's also app tethering is another solution for passing stuff across. It's not the same kind of thing.
Yep.
As a push notification would be. But if you want to do something between applications that you've got running, and it's your own applications running on multiple machines, then you could look at the app tethering as well.
Yep.
Let's see, I lost my place. Okay, with share contracts, you showed the sharing data to another app. Is it possible to be the receiving app, to develop an app to be the receiving app?
Yeah, currently it's tied to how Windows does sharing itself today and how it connects into applications, but there's more to come from Microsoft in the future. At least if, as I remember correctly. Jim, do you remember anything additional?
That's correct, yeah. Microsoft is releasing the Centennial Bridge in the near future. At least they've said they're going to, and that will allow open it up so that we can develop apps that will be the receiving end as well.
Yeah, because you might want to have some, you know, administrator app that's sitting somewhere getting these kinds of notifications, right? That someone is sitting there watching for, or get them on your phone or whatever. Yep.
Yeah, beyond the Windows side, if you're looking to do that on Android, then you can use intents, and you can set up both to be a sender and a receiver of intents on Android.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we have the best providers
cool.
with EMS, with our own EMS, or Parse, which is being shut down by Facebook, or Convey and App42 by Shepherds, where you could hook into those back-end systems. And I think Jeff Lefebvre in one of the Code Rage sessions also just showed how you could do your own code. He had a third-party library to go from a VCL app and do a back-end push that would send a notification to an iOS or an Android phone, for example. I think he was doing his with Android and Google push notifications. So there's lots of ways to do that already in a VCL app today. You can check out, we've covered some of those. Serena DuPont did blog posts about how to use these back-end services to, and again, the VCL, you look at the BAS components, back-end as a service components, there's the, what is it, back-end push, I think is the name of the component.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that works with a VCL app where you can push notifications out through a back-end provider to a mobile device.
So if someone's developing an app that's being ran through terminal services in a web application, would they still have access to the Windows 10 features on the local desktop, or would they be restricted?
Well, if the terminal server is still talking to a Windows machine, and that Windows machine is either Windows 8 or Windows 10, you'd have WinRT and notifications, and then Windows 10 sharing contract. But I'm not a terminal server specialist in the Microsoft world, but if my memory is correct, it just lets you connect to multiple Windows machines and do things with them. So anything you can do on a Windows machine, whatever version of Windows that's running, you can do with your VCL apps.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess it depends on how terminal service is set up, probably.
Yeah.
And
again,
Windows RT.
Oh, go ahead, Jim.
I was going to ask, is Windows RT already installed with Delphi when you're running on Windows 10, or because the Get Package Manager has one as well, but is that C++ only?
That's the C++ one. We didn't have the C++ WinRT ready when 10 Seattle first came out, but we did have the Delphi one. We did that for Windows 8. I think it came out in August before 10 Seattle shipped for Delphi. So the Delphi version is already pre-installed. And for C++, just go to Get It Package Manager. Click. You saw mine says uninstalled because I'd already installed it. So it's a simple, quick. All it does is it copies down the files, pulls them apart into the header files, puts them in the catalog repository, and updates the search paths so that you can find them in your C++ projects. Delphi, you'll find them in the source file under the RTL Windows WinRT folder. And I have that link, and it's in the blog post where to find them for Delphi in the install, and then where to find them if you use the Get It Package Manager for C++. I give you the paths on your hard drive if you do the standard install. Looks like people want some more for the system touch keyboard. I'll have to take a look at the touch keyboard for Windows 8 and Windows 10. Okay, that'll be a good thing to think about. Thanks, Primosh. Let's see. Link to the blog post. I did that in the chat window, but I'll copy it from there unless somebody already did it. Maybe. Oh, it's already posted. Great. Oh, I see. We're having this discussion about when the day was inserted to make leap year, and there's even leap seconds periodically. Every once in a while, they have to do something because the way the Earth goes around the sun. But okay, the roadmap. You can use Bluetooth. We did that, Jim. We showed how to use Bluetooth in Windows 8 and Windows 10. Bluetooth LE.
That's right. It does. Yeah, you can do Bluetooth LE from Windows 10 and Windows 8.
And Windows 8.
But there's an update coming in on the roadmap as well, though, that allows you to use it without pairing, I think is what it was.
Yeah. Windows 8 and Windows 10 right now, you have to pair. You go into the Bluetooth devices area of the operating system, and you'll find your heart rate monitor or your scale or whatever it might be, and you have to pair or be connected before you run your app. But we have blog posts and demos about how to do that. I've done that with Windows 8 and Windows 10. But yeah, there's always more functionality that Microsoft is doing to sort of catch up to the world of Android and Apple with things like Bluetooth LE devices, beacons, and all sorts of things. So we will keep updating as Microsoft updates things as well. Oh yeah, so the transition to Unicode, some people are saying, is what's keeping them to be pre-2009 release. Again, we have the Unicode Migration Center that's available in lots of videos and lots of content to help you move forward. And if I'm always looking for a project, if you give us permission to do a webinar or some kind of white paper and help you move forward. So Bjorn, if you want to work with us, work with me to help you move an application forward, if we can document some of that, hide all your company-specific information, that's something I've been looking for, is a large enough example. I've got a few, like TurboCash. It's an open source accounting system, but it's already been updated to cross the chasm. So I'd have to sort of deconstruct it. But again, if someone's got a project out there that you want some help, if we can document, I'd love to spend the time to help you move it forward and document a real-world application moving forward. So just send me an email, david.i@embarcadero.com. Pretty simple. Okay, I think those are all the questions. Oh, Jim, they're saying you have to go to bed because you're yawning. Will today's webinar link?
Sorry.
Will today's webinar link work with Pavel's session next week? It won't. Each webinar has a separate link and a separate registration. So I put on the screen, and I'll have to, if somebody can paste. Here's the links. This is Pavel's blog post. So let me copy that, and let's see how I can put that in the chat window. I'll put it in the chat window. Let's see if I can go. Where's the chat window? Okay. Here's Pavel. I put that in the chat window, Pavel's link. So there's the link. And as far as the ebooks and bonus downloads, just go to Code Central to your registered user downloads. So registered user downloads is how you, there you go, Jim. We're listening to you.
Oh, really? I thought I had it on mute.
No, you're not on mute. But that's just go to cc.embarcadero.com/myreg, and I got to get a different keyboard now. I'm over on this other system. cc.embarcadero.com/myreg, and if you're logged in, that will show you all your registered user downloads, including the ebook and the styles and media converter and so on. So cc.embarcadero.com/myreg, and then let's here, and then Pavel's blog post, Pat, I'm going to put that in. There's his blog post in the Q&A log, which has links for the 3 different times he's doing next Wednesday's webinar. And there you go. Yeah, okay. All right, and with that, if I can figure, oh, there's my mouse again. I can help. And that's, let's see, it says the only ebook I can see is for 2009. It depends. If you have a registered 10 Seattle, you should see Marco's handbook in the list. But if not, send me an email. So send me an email, and I will figure out what's going on for you. Or I'll just send you the ebook. It's a 4 megabyte zip file. Just send me an email, david@embarcadero.com. It's the easiest thing I could do. I'll try to figure out why it's not showing up as well in your registered user downloads, but we'll make sure that if you've got 10 Seattle that you get to it.
How fast? So does WinRT work from FireMonkey as well as VCL, or is it VCL only?
Yeah, you can use it if you're running on Windows. You can use anything that's in the Windows or the system unit. So those things are available to you. And I took it also as a more generic question. There is a T-switch objects on FireMonkey. There's the T-multi-view instead of the split view. The split view is a VCL control for Windows that works on Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10. FireMonkey has a T-multi-view, which is a similar thing. But a different component, again, because it's a VCL versus FireMonkey. The other thing that happened in 10 Seattle is originally the notifications class and center functionality was in the FMX namespace, and in 10 Seattle that got moved into the system namespace. That allowed us then to use the same component programming set for FireMonkey and for VCL. So that's why you'll see that notifications showing up and being usable on both versions of both frameworks. But there's nothing special other than if you do any Windows-specific work in FireMonkey, then it's only for Windows, right? It's not you can't take that same code over to OS 10, iOS, and Android. But you can.
Right, yeah, as soon as you access those Windows, WinRT APIs in your own Windows only.
Or anything that's Windows-specific under the covers, right? unless you use, this. Again, the system unit is there as cross-platform. If it's in the VCL or FireMonkey namespace, then it's, it's sort of self-selected in that respect. And let's go ahead, Jim.
Can any old VCL form have the new Windows 10 styles applied to them?
So as long as you build with a version of Delphi or C++ Builder where the style manager was added, which is what, XE2 maybe? We had XP themes as an overall project checkbox originally back in the day. But yeah, any form, those forms you saw in the original Marine Adventures app, that menu item was added once we had VCL themes and the VCL theme manager. So it was retrofitted, and again, you saw that as I brought up the master detail customer and orders form, it took on that style. So absolutely any VCL form, as long as, again, you rebuild it with a version of Delphi or C++ Builder that supports VCL theming, you can choose those themes. The way you'll know is open up the project and go to the project manager options, go to application appearance, and if under application appearance you see all those list of styles that it finds in the style, there's a styles folder in your user, public documents, and so on, Embarcadero, Studio, 17, 16, whatever, you'll see a samples folder and a styles folder in there. So that's where all the style files are, and there's also a style editor where you can create your own custom styles as well. So the answer is yes, as long as it's you have a recent version, I'll call it, of
the Windows 10 style, I think, was introduced in an update to XE8. Does that sounds right?
Yeah, the
Windows 10 style specifically.
Those styles came along the way. We had the Metropolis UI styles before, though. The Metropolis UI styles for blue, and I think it was blue, orange, and dark, or black and green. Those came with XE8, and that whole, when Microsoft was calling it the Metropolis look and feel. They've gotten way of saying Metropolis anymore, but we've kept those style files. They were there, and when I did the scrolling in the appearance styles, so we still have those for legacy apps. Windows is whatever the default Windows style is, and then there's a Windows 10, as you saw, dark and blue, and again, some custom styles that are there. I forget exactly when the Windows 10 styles were uploaded. It could have been sometime in the summer. I know WinRT, we had a Delphi pre-release version of WinRT for XE8 that was put up in the Get It Package Manager in the summertime of last year, and then the Delphi is included in the release of 10 Seattle. The C++ came in November of 2015, so it's still in the Get It Package Manager. I suspect, well, I shouldn't assume that it might get merged in, but for now, you saw me, I just went and installed it. That's why Get It Package Manager had the uninstall button for WinRT C++ header files.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a question here. How fast are the share contract interfaces for when you're sharing, and how long does it take before the share occurs?
So I haven't timed it, but you saw it popped up, when I clicked the share button, you saw the list of apps come up very fast when I clicked on it, although I wasn't sending very much. I think, to me, it depends on how much you're, in a sense, you're sending over, because you could send a very long RTF string, for example, to populate a Word document, or whatever the sharing data might be, a very large bitmap, for example, and so on. But you saw that when I clicked on the button, the sharing list popped up very fast, and then when I clicked on the different ones, the strings and the images that I was sending, it seemed to be fast. But again, if you're sending more data, but I haven't done a time. I haven't done like 10,000 shares and put the stopwatch on it. But yes, I could. Usually it's user operation, right? You your app does something or the user clicks to want to do something like share. And that's like human processing speed. I don't think humans are going to notice it.
Right. Yeah, it seems fast enough, I think. So the question here about the TOS version, if it can give you access to the build number.
Yeah, there's fields for major and minor, and also service, major, minor. The check says check if it's greater than or equal to the number that you put in there. I'm going to update the code that's now up in Code Central to do on the form create of this latest rendition of the Marine Adventures, at least the Delphi version. I'm going to add some code into the, and I've been working on that in between this morning and now, to check specific OS version so that, for example, for notifications, if you're on Windows 8 and later, then notification can work. Sharing contracts is 10, so in the form create, look for, I think I'm going to make it say if TOS or TOS version dot major greater than or equal to 8, and then I'll enable the notification tab in the button, and then I'll say if TOS version dot major greater than or equal to 10, then I'll enable the shared contracts, or I'll do it the opposite way. I'll say if it's less than 8, then I'll disable sharing contracts and notifications. You know, if it's less than 10, then I'll leave on notifications if it's Windows 8 or Windows 10. So you'll see some if code, some runtime if statements in the on form create event, and then I'll disable the buttons and when it's on a page control with a tab sheet. When you disable or set enable to false, the tab sheet still shows up. It's just nothing is clickable in it, so it'll stay there. I'll put some label in there to say, hey, this tab sheet is disabled because you're not on the right version of Windows for the sharing and notification tabs. I played with the other day setting them enable or not. I thought they would somehow go away, but turns out they stay there. That's the way the page control works. So they'll just be disabled if you're not on Windows 8 and greater for notification, or 10 and greater if you go to the sharing contract. And that's just how that works. But yeah, look at the TOS version in the doc wiki. There's some methods, class methods, and then there's fields as well, because TOS version is a record type. It's not a class traditional sense.
So there was a question here about using WinRT to monitor audio levels. So I point out you can use the media capture class in WinRT, and provide a link for that there.
Yeah, those are good. I found a bunch of C# type examples. There's a WinRT book that goes through all of those different interfaces and does samples. So Jim, maybe we can collaborate or work with MVPs to build some Delphi and C++ versions of just a few more of those besides the calendar sample. That'd be really cool. But I see your link. I'm going to go look at the C# there. It shouldn't be too hard to look at the code. C#, Delphi, C++ should be very, very similar, straightforward. And there's a lot. Again, there's 40 interface units with lots of interfaces and lots of functionality across network, Bluetooth, UI. There's a whole bunch of controls to think about using. Who knows what we might do as we continue to wrap native controls and as we move more into the Windows UWP and user experience. There's always more to come, and Microsoft's working on other things as well. So, yeah.
Yep. Very cool. Okay, I think that's all the questions related to your presentation here, unless I missed something. I'm looking real quick here.
Something about use a switch which drops through.
Oh, he's talking about for your OS version check.
Oh yeah, sure, we can do that. Yep. could use a switch statement in C++ or a case statement in Delphi. It's an integer. It's not a cardinal, but it should be okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. That'll work.
Yeah. Again, the code samples that from last week and this week, it's going to be a work in progress. I'll just keep updating the zip file over time as I put more stuff in, and then I'll add other stuff over time. I don't know that we'll have another webinar unless we need one for some of the refinements. I'm going to move the customers and orders into the tab sheet and move the parts inventory. One of the other areas I want to add is Interbase Express has an event alerter component where if a trigger happens, for example, if the inventory gets low and it's back ordered, I want that to trigger doing a notification versus just clicking on the button, sort of causing a notification. That was just to show functionality. What I really want to do is have the event alerter from Interbase trigger a notification and maybe other notifications as well as we look at the Marina Adventures app and things to hook in through these modern Windows 10 user interfaces. So it's a work in progress. We'll just keep at it. If you have other suggestions like that, send me an email, david.i@embarcadero.com, and I will keep updating the code and the forms.
Are these controls available in Seattle Professional?
And
I believe they should be, right?
they are. They're in two different places. They're in the sharing contract, and the notification center components are in the system category in the component palette. The 5 new VCL controls are in the Windows 10 category. So in Windows 10, you see 5 components: the activity indicator, toggle switch, search box, relative panel, and the split view. And then mixed in with the system group, you'll see the T-sharing contract and the T-notification center components. Not sure why it was done that way, but I guess I could ask one of the R&D team members why those two. Well, notification center is in the system namespace, and it can be used across all the different platforms that we support. Sharing contract is only supported on Windows currently. So, I don't know. Anyway, that's where you find them. Look in the system unit for those two, and look in the Windows 10 unit for the other 5.
And I noticed that sharing contract is not available on a FireMonkey application. It's only available in a VCL application for the component, which is why you can also use it via the API calls directly, which we have with examples.
And it's in the VCL namespace versus the notification center originally was in the FMX namespace and got moved into the system namespace because of Windows and VCL, that they could use it with this Action Center.
So the question here about what the package name is for the share contract component?
Yeah, you put in the package name, which...
Yeah, I misunderstood.
The correct answer in one form, the BPL. In the documentation, it just says that the package name is a string that you share with the target application. Now, under the covers, there's this data package class object, and there is this notion of a manifest of the pieces and parts that go together that are sent over to the target application so that it can see, does it have icons, logos, bitmaps, strings, RTF, HTML, URLs, and so on. So it's related in there. I'd have to go down inside the Windows API deeper to see if the target application even cares to look at the package name. There's nothing I could find when I was looking through the source code of the interface unit that defines the underpinnings to the operating system from our sharing contract component or the framework API that we give you the Delphi and C++ interfaces for.
Here's a suggestion here on the image list editor. It said it would be good if we could choose a background color as light, dark, or checkerboard. In your examples, you can't see the icons unless they're selected.
Yeah, yeah. What I was doing is when I created my little icons for the category buttons, I made, instead of a transparency, I used, I think, fuchsia for the transparent color mapping. And so unfortunately in the image editor that didn't have a checkerboard or something else. There may be a registry setting. I'll have to take a look. Otherwise, put a suggestion in.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Quality.embarcadero.com. So Nick's saying he tried last week the sample, but wanted better looking buttons on the split view. And it says category buttons and image lists don't use PNGs. So he used a grid panel, 2 columns with images and labels. I wonder if there's a better way to get around that, being able to use PNGs on category buttons and image lists.
Yeah, that was coming up yesterday a little bit too, about why doesn't VCL have multi-resolution bitmaps, and why isn't the image list editor more robust? I suspect it's from the history of Windows itself and the first VCL, but again, a suggestion of more functionality in VCL image lists would be a good suggestion to add and vote for. That came up again in Jim's great skill sprint yesterday. People were saying, hey, how come more of this functionality that's there for FireMonkey image list isn't brought back to the VCL image list? Yep.
Okay, well that looks like that's it for questions. Unless anybody's got anything else you want to add really quick. But otherwise, we'll just remind everybody that we have tomorrow, we have the C++ skill sprint on FireMonkey T image list. Next week, we have skill sprints on using Touch ID with iOS. And also the next webinar on Wednesday, which is on JSON, which is really cool. I'm definitely looking forward to that one.
And I put the link to Pavel's blog post in the chat window, as well as links to my blogs. So if you're interested in what's new in JSON, that link is at the bottom of the chat window. You can go and click on it and get to it, or just go under community.embarcadero.com. Under the blogs pull-down menu, you'll see Pavel's name, and you can click there, and it's his most recent post. So that you can get to those. I think that's the only other thing is this afternoon I did put up a zip file with the latest update to this version of the Marine Adventures app. And so that link is on my blog. It's a zip file in Code Central. I did add doing Windows testing, looking for Windows 8 or 10 to do notification, and Windows 10 to do sharing contract. And what I do is I then set enabled for the tab sheets for those two to false, because on a page control, if you disable a tab sheet, it still shows, you just can't click on anything. And I put a label in there that says, hey, it's disabled because you're not running on Windows 10. And I also disconnected the actions and the on-click event handlers. I set those to nil in code for the notification and the sharing category button on-click events in the split view. So all of that code is included in the zip file, and I'll just keep updating this zip file over time and the one from last week as well as I keep adding more features. One of the things I'm going to do is use the Interbase Express has a event alerter component that I can have fire when, for example, the inventory parts on hand get low or get back ordered, and then I can capture that event alert and fire a notification versus just clicking on the button. So things like that are there's always more to do and fun stuff to flesh out an application over time. So I'll keep at it over the coming weeks and months. Okay, well, Jim, I think that's it. Great questions, and thank you, everybody. I'm going to save the question log, and then we'll see you again. Skill sprints on Tuesday, Thursday. Jim did a great image list skill sprint yesterday for Delphi. He's going to do it for C++ tomorrow. I used the VCL image list. In Jim's case this week, he's showing you the multi-resolution bitmap capabilities of FMX with image lists, that since we have to deal with multiple resolutions across different devices, platforms. So it's a really good skill sprint, even if you're not a C++. If you missed the Delphi, come and see the C++ one. A lot of it is inside of the editor, right, Jim?
That's correct. Yeah, you can do some really cool stuff with it in the editor there.
Yeah. And then next week again on Wednesday is Pavel Glavatsky, and then we're working on a couple more webinars for March that are centered around enterprise development. I'll get the information about those up and the reg links up as soon as humanly possible. Great. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you again on one of the upcoming events.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.